I'm Elizabeth Strout, and I'm a writer. I've written 3 novels, Aleph Kitteridge, Abide With Me, and Amy and Isabel, and I live in New York City. But I grew up in Maine. I spent the first half of my life in Maine, which is the northern eastern part of the United States, and the second half of my life I've been in New York City. Okay. Aleph Kitteridge is a fictional character who's very ferocious in her emotions and deep in her attachments, and like many of us, I think that she has some blind spots in the closer she is to the person that she loves, but the farther away the person is from her, the more able she is to be compassionate and caring. And my own relationship to her as a character that I was working with was to find her pretty amazing, sometimes pretty frightening, but I really loved her. I loved her a lot, actually, as I wrote more and more about her.
Are you from Maine?
The part of America that is being written about in Aleph Kitteridge is the very northern eastern part of the country with a Puritan kind of heritage. So that's what I'm writing about in Aleph Kitteridge. And I do come from Maine, and I do come from that background. And it's a part of America that's changing quickly, as all of America is. But for a long time, it hasn't been changing. And it's very isolated. It's economically depressed, and it does have this Puritan ethic kind of behind the generations of the people that have been living there in this town, Crosby, Maine. Well, one of the first people who comes to mind is Nathaniel Hawthorne, just because he is such a New Englander and was writing about a particular kind of New England many years ago that's familiar to me. So I think of him as almost a literary ancestor. But other American writers that have meant a lot to me would be somebody like Sherwood Anderson, who also wrote about a small town in the Midwest when he was writing about Winesburg, Ohio. And I think a lot of the rural writers of parts of rural America speak to me and have spoken to me in my own work. And I do feel influenced by the whole history of the American voice, you know, with Theodore Dreiser and Hemingway and Fitzgerald and Raymond Carver just moving on up as the American voice gets more and more developed.
You wrote these stories?
I knew right away when I first wrote the very first Olive story that it was going to be a collection of stories and that they were going to be connected together. And I never had any intention of writing this as a traditional kind of novel. There's something about Olive's character that's so explosive and sort of episodic that I understood right away, intuitively, that she would come to me as she did in stories. And so I didn't think of writing this as a traditional novel, but I did think that it would have the heft of a novel. When the reader got done, they would have a sense of having gone through an experience not unlike one that you go through when you read a full novel.
How does it?
It's fabulous to have received this award. I'm so thrilled, and I'm especially touched by the generosity of booksellers giving this prize to someone who's not Spanish and to an American and to somebody with a different kind of voice. I'm very moved by that, and it really means a great deal to me. And I think of booksellers as people who know a lot about books. They have a very hands-on experience with books. They're the ones that, you know, read them. They're the ones that people depend upon to come in and find a book. And I'm just so pleased and grateful that this has been given to me. Just to thank them so much for allowing Olive to sort of come across the ocean. While it is a very American